So you're buying an espresso machine. That's so exciting, but now you need to know how to dial it in. This is the video for you. Oh, thanks. You wanna do YouTube too? Good boy. Welcome back to James Makes Coffee. I'm James Good, your source for coffee content here on YouTube. If you're new to making espresso, new to the Breville Barista Express, or maybe you just like the sound of my voice, hit that subscribe button to see more great coffee videos where I take you into how to make espresso, how to use the Breville Barista Express, and all kinds of other great stuff. Today's video is the video I wish I had when I first got my Breville Barista Express. I'm hoping this video saves you hours of frustration that I experienced when I first tried to set up my espresso machine and dial in the settings. Now I wish that the Breville Barista Express was like plug in, ready to go, but unfortunately it's not. You do have to get your machine dialed in. And what that means is adjusting your grind settings and the amount of coffee you're using, and basically fine tuning your settings so that it will make a great espresso for the beans that you're using. Because every bean is a little bit different and requires a little bit of tweaking to your settings. With that being said, you're going to need a few tools to help you do this process. So the things that you'll need are, first, an espresso machine. Second, you're going to need good water. My water is actually pretty good tasting, but the flavor of the water will really impact the flavor of the espresso. So make sure you're using a water that tastes good, that's not hard on the machine. Next, you'll need a bag of coffee. When people get new espresso machines, the first thing that I tell them is just buy a bag of coffee with the full intention that you're gonna go through the whole thing trying to get this machine set up. As far as what coffee you wanna choose, I would avoid going to the supermarket and buying like a mass-produced coffee. And that's because you're likely not going to get the results that you want. Espresso is best when you're using coffee beans that have been roasted within 1 to 2 weeks. So your best option is to Google a local coffee roaster near you and buy one of their coffee bags. For this video, I'm using a bag of coffee from Chamberlain Coffee. They were really kind to send me a ton of coffee bags, and so I'm really excited to see what they taste like. I'm using their original house blend. Next, you're gonna need a kitchen scale. I'm using just a $20 Amazon kitchen scale, which works perfectly. You don't need to go invest in like a coffee brewer's scale, which can run you hundreds of dollars. If you're a pro, sure, go with the expensive one, but for now, any kitchen scale really will do. Finally, you'll need some uniform cups. I got these cups off of Amazon. They were really cheap. They were like 12 bucks, but just something where you have like a consistent way to measure multiple espresso shots. Okay, so getting started, I've returned my espresso machine to factory default settings, and I'll go into that a little bit later as to what settings I changed after buying it, but just know that I'm using it kind of right out of the box of what you might be using it. When you dial in espresso, there are a lot of different variables. There's grind size, dose, yield. There are a lot of videos out there that would tell you that you should be weighing the yield. And by yield, I mean the actual amount of espresso that comes out of your machine when you extract it. And I'm not gonna get into that. That's overcomplicating this. The only things that I wanna talk about are the dose, which is the actual physical amount of coffee beans that you're using, and the grind size. Those two, if you can nail those two, you're going to have a good espresso. For this video, I'm using the double shot, single walled, non-pressurized basket. So Breville provides 4 different baskets. There's a pressurized single and double, and then a non-pressurized single and double basket. You're going to use the double non-pressurized basket. Let's get started. The very first variable that we're going to talk about is the dose. So this is the actual amount of coffee that you're using. So for the Breville, I've had the most success using 18 grams of coffee. Some people will say that you should use less, like 17 grams. Some people say that you should use more, like 21 grams. Just after 4 months of me using the machine really frequently, I've had a lot of success with 18 grams. The way that I'm going to control that is I'm going to open the grind amount up all the way on the machine. And this is gonna stay there for most of this process. Each time that we make a shot of espresso, we're going to weigh out 18 grams. This isn't always, this is only for the purpose of dialing in your espresso. The way that we're going to measure it is using the scale. So first let's measure the beans. We're gonna measure 18 grams and dump that right into the machine. Then you're going to grind your coffee into your portafilter. And you'll notice that this is going to grind fully and the grinder will sound like it's spinning afterward. This is because we've opened up the grind setting all the way, and so it's trying to grind more coffee, but there is nothing left in the hopper for it to grind. Now you'll notice right off the bat that if you don't use something like a funnel when grinding your coffee, it creates a lot of mess. While you don't need a funnel, and I went a couple months without getting a funnel for my machine, you will have mess. And so if you want to invest a little bit and buy a funnel, you're going to save yourself just a lot of time cleaning up. Next, you'll want to distribute the coffee into the portafilter before you tamp the coffee down into a puck. So the way that you can do it is you can tap the sides of the portafilter, tap it on the counter. You can also use tools like a distributor tool, or there's a method called the WDT method of distribution. We're not using any of those. We're just using out of the box functionality for the purpose of this video. After your coffee is distributed, you can go ahead and tamp the coffee. Now, if this is your first time tamping coffee in a portafilter, they say that you want to tamp at 30 pounds of pressure. If you're anything like me, I had no idea what 30 pounds of pressure meant or how to gauge if I'm giving 30 pounds of pressure. My little like rule of thumb is you don't want to like crank on that portafilter. Like you're not trying to like pound that thing down into the earth. You also don't want to go too light. The way that I kind of gauge it is there's like a little metal ring around the tamp that comes with the machine. As long as it's tamped down and that metal ring disappears, I feel comfortable that I've tamped sufficiently. Finally, you're ready to secure the portafilter on the brew head and extract your espresso. Okay, so this is our very first extraction, and as you can see, this extraction is flowing very quickly. It's also not flowing smooth and evenly. It's kind of like wavering as it comes down. One side looks like it's like sputtering out a bit. This is kind of as expected. We're not using a good like distribution tool, so there's going to be, it's called channeling, where it's kind of like the water is like finding little holes through the puck on its way down through. So it creates channeling, and also the flow. This is what we're trying to gauge, is we want to slow that down to a nice steady stream. When it extracts too fast, it gives off a sour taste to your espresso. And you'll see later on in the video, when it extracts too slow, it gives off a bitter taste to the espresso. So you're going for kind of a happy medium. So this espresso flowed very fast, and we need to make some adjustments. So the adjustment that we're going to make is to the grind size. We can make it coarser or finer. Where this espresso flowed really fast, it was too fast, we're going to make the grind finer to hopefully add some more pressure to the espresso extraction. So what I would recommend when you're making your adjustments is to go 2 grind settings at a time, and then if you're getting close, then adjust by 1 grind setting. So we're on a 5, we're going to go down to a 3 and see what that does. Again, I'm going to weigh out my beans. I'm going to this time use a funnel to contain some of this mess, grind out my beans, tamp it, and then we'll pull the shot. Pulling this shot, it was a little bit better, but it still flowed pretty fast. Same thing as last time, we're going to adjust the grind setting, and we're going to now go down to a 1. Okay, so exact same process, weigh the beans, grind the coffee, tamp it, and now let's pull the shot. And so this time at a 1, you can see that the coffee is not coming down near as fast as the last time. It's slow, it's kind of dripping. And if you look at the pressure gauge, the pressure is actually kind of like past that ideal setting, and it's almost full pressure. So this is an example of an over extraction. And the way to fix an over extraction is to make the coffee grinds a little bit more coarse. So we went from a 3 to a 1. So let's try going to a 2 to see if that gives us the perfect extraction. So I did the whole process again, weighing, grinding, tamping, and now we're on the 2 setting to see if that's the perfect extraction for us. It's still quite slow. Actually, it seems like it's almost slower than the last time. So how do we reconcile this? We've got a 3 that's too fast and a 2 that's too slow. What's our option here? For me, I found that adjusting the inner burr grinder was what I needed to do to get me to that right grind setting. This Breville Barista Express has a burr type grinder, and we can adjust the inner burr setting to make it finer or coarser. So the way to do that, you have to remove the hopper, and then you'll see the burr grinder. And what you're going to do is you're going to twist the upper burr, and it twists really hard. You're going to hear a click eventually. Don't worry, you're not going to break it, but after you twist it, you can take it out. It's probably going to be dirty, so I always like to take this opportunity to vacuum inside, clean it up. I always keep a toothbrush so that I can clean the burr when I'm in there. And then you're going to remove the handle, and you're going to twist the burr. So I'm going from a 5, that's the factory default. I'm going from a 5 to a 4. And I found that this is the best setting for me. Then I'm going to add the handle back and put it back into my machine. It's going to click, add the hopper back, and now we'll give it a try. When you adjust the inner burr setting, everything is going to be finer. I was at a 2, I'm gonna bring this up to a 4 now and just kind of see where that's at. Again, same process, weigh the beans, grind it, tamp it, and pull the shot. And as you can see, it's looking better. It still looks a little bit too over extracted. So what I'm going to do is bring it up to a 5 now, and we're just gonna see where this is at. Same process again, weighing, grinding, and extracting. This looks like a pretty good shot. I'm actually really happy with this one. So this is a 4 on the inside and a 5 on the outside, and this gave me a really good result, and I'm quite happy with this. Now let's give it a try and see if it tastes good. I'm gonna make this an Americano, so I'm just adding hot water to a cup, pour the espresso over top, and it tastes really good. So when dialing in your Breville Barista Express, I would take it 2 steps at a time and just be patient, have fun with it. But don't try and do too many variables at once because it's going to get confusing. Now the final piece that we need to do here is adjust the grind amount so that you don't have to be weighing every single time that you're making the coffee. You can if you want to, some people do that, but I'd rather just dump beans in the hopper, grind, and I'm good to go. So the way that I do that is I'm going to add beans to the hopper. I'm going to dial back this grind amount setting. We'll just keep it kind of middle of the road for now and see where it's at. Then you're going to weigh your portafilter on your scale, zero it out, and grind into the portafilter. Then you're going to weigh the portafilter with the coffee in it and see if it's 18 grams. If it's more, just remove a bit of coffee. If it's less, you can manually add a bit more coffee by holding the portafilter on the grinder and then releasing. And then what you'll do is you'll just fine tune that grind dial each time you make coffee until you get it right. So there you have it. That's my process for dialing in espresso. First, I go with the grind setting, then I go with the grind amount, and it seems to work really well for me. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.